What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto Lighthawk wins? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.
Have you ever wondered about a different side of Naruto's world? Welcome to Ninja Seduction on Patreon. We create mature, thoughtfully written what-if Naruto stories, along with exclusive comics and premium quality audio. Our community is interactive. Members can vote in polls, share ideas, and help guide future stories. If you enjoy creative storytelling and a more grown-up ninja experience, we'd be happy to have you join us on Patreon. The link is provided in the description.
Kami sighed as he watched his avatar return to the third dimension. As he watched as the three women began to explain to his avatar about the goals to find him and all that. Geez, those girls are always causing mischief. Oh well, as long as they don't actually destroy the third dimension, Kami says as he sighs again. Now what should I do? The girls will most likely reset time, so maybe I should go back to sleep, he says as he got ready to go back to Tenchi. However, before he could return his astral form back into his hybrid body, he felt a disturbance on a planet in the next neighboring galaxy. Now what could that be? Tenchi thought as he opened a rift to see what was happening. There on a planet in the West Galaxy, on a planet named Shiranui. Shiranui, but why is the disturbance coming from the planet that has been labeled as an S-class danger zone because of the white veil of concentrated energy protecting it and its star from the rest of the galaxy? As he pinpointed the location, he made sure that he would be able to get through without destroying the veil. After that was a success, he quickly vanished heading to the planet. Planet Shiranui border named Valley of the End. Naruto slowly stood up, while the dust from the obliterated rock drifted away into the wind. As he stood up, Kami had arrived just in time to see the two stared each other down. What's this? Two kids shrouded in evil energy, Kami thought as he watched the spectacle unfold. Sasuke, who was currently using level 2 of the curse mark, began going through a short chain of hand seals, then lightning began to crackle in the palm of his hand. Naruto was able to use his right hand to charge up a Rasengan. As both boys' power output increased, their techniques began to change color. Sasuke's Chidori turned black and the chirping became louder. The Rasengan used the chakra of the 9 tails as a shell, keeping the chakra stabilized. The color turned from blue to purple. Kami watched the battle with great interest as the two jumped at one another, wondering which of the two demons before him would be left standing. Naruto, a flying Sasuke yells, as he speeds towards Naruto, who is heading towards him as well. Sasuke, roared Naruto, who thrusts his Rasengan to meet Sasuke's Chidori. Chidori, Rasengan, the two exclaims as their jutsu collide, exploding upon impact. The explosion created a dark dome of chakra around Naruto and Sasuke, making it hard to see for anyone who wasn't Kami. Looking inside the dome, Kami saw Sasuke bury his fist into his opponent's gut. However, he saw Naruto make a scratch in Sasuke's headband. What's this? That boy showed his opponent mercy instead of just killing him. Very interesting, Kami thought as the dome began to dissipate. Kami watched as Sasuke was hovering over an unconscious Naruto, pondering whether he should kill him. Sasuke decides to leave Naruto alive and leaves the valley. Kami made his way over to Naruto. Well, that was entertaining. You done well against the other kids, so how about you come with me? Kami says as Naruto's body begins to glow. I see, so that's what happened. Well, do not worry, Tenchi said as he and Naruto's body disappeared from the clearing. About 15 seconds after Kami took Naruto, Kakashi arrived to the valley's waterfall looking for Naruto and Sasuke, only to come up empty-handed. I'm sorry, Minato-sensei. Obito, I have failed you once again, Kakashi says as he begins to head back to the village, tears flowing from his eyes as he leapt through the trees. Endless space. Kami and Naruto both appeared in the endless space of the third dimension a few hundred feet above Naruto's home planet. Okay, so now to call Tsunami Fune, Kami says as he summons 2 Lighthawk wings. Suddenly a portal opened and Tsunami Fune, a ship with 10 Lighthawk wings, appeared right below the two. Ah, here she is. Now I'll just set you in here and then we need to talk. Kami then moved Naruto inside the tree ship, then set the coordinates for Earth. Well, then I guess I will wait until we get close to Earth and he wakes up, and then he will get to need the family. Back on Shiranui, Tsunade was currently in the hospital overseeing the healing process of the members from the Sasuke retrieval squad. It seems that two of the members Neji and Choji were in a critical condition. The other members Shikamaru and Kiba's condition wasn't life-threatening and so their injuries were treated and they were sent home to get a week's worth of rest. As she was just leaving the ER along with Shizune when a nurse on standby told her that Kakashi was there to see her and that it was important. "Alright, tell him to meet me at my office and I will be there in 5 minutes. Shizune, I want you to handle Neji's surgery and keep an eye on Choji's progress," Tsunade says as she starts to leave the hospital. It didn't take her long to reach her office and when she did, she saw Kakashi sitting in the lobby with his head down, tears flowing from his eyes. "Well, Kakashi, seeing you like this is certainly a first for me. Even when you were still a brat during the war you didn't shed this many tears," Tsunade says as Kakashi looked towards the 5th Hokage. Tsunade was taken back by the hopelessness within his now lifeless eyes. "Tsunade-sama, I have very bad news and it concerns Naruto and Sasuke," the copy ninja tells her. Hearing this made Tsunade's already somewhat bad mood worsen. "Kakashi, where is Naruto right now?" Tsunade asked in a no-nonsense tone of voice. Kakashi then explained to her what he saw when he made it to the valley and the fact that Naruto and Sasuke were nowhere to be seen. Hearing this, Tsunade ran inside her office and called for her Anbu. "You called Hokage-sama?" the lead Anbu wearing a bear mask asked. "Bear, I need you to gather every member of the Black Ops who are off duty and head towards the valley off the end." This piqued Bear's curiosity, as he knew who was sent on a mission heading in that direction. Tsunade then explained the details to them once every member was gathered. All of the members of the Anbu were more than willing for this mission. To them, Naruto was the heart of the Anbu. Thanks to his years of pranks, that usually ended with the Anbu having to chase him all through the village. While this doesn't sound like a reason to praise someone, however, thanks to those times the Anbu was able to keep their skills fresh, so they were always nice to him even knowing what he contains. "We will leave immediately, Hokage-sama," Bear says as he and the other 6 Anbu all vanished in a swirl of leaves. Tsunade then sat down at her desk and sighed. "Naruto, where could you have gotten to? You better be alive and come back to me," Tsunade says as she pulls out a bottle of sake only to just stare at it without opening the bottle. Aboard the Tsunami Fune. "Ouch, my aching head," Naruto groaned as he sat up, holding his head. "Well, it seems that you are finally up and just as we have reached our sea destination." Hearing the voice of someone he did not know, Naruto rubbed his eyes and looked to see who was talking to him. Who are you supposed to be?" Naruto asks as he stares at the glowing body before him. "Who am I? Well, for now you can just call me bro and we are in your mind," Kami says as Naruto's vision finally cleared only to see that the guy was still glowing. "So, do you remember what had happened a few hours ago?" Kami asked as Naruto held his head in his hands. "Sasuke, that bastard won and no, I know that I wasn't strong enough to bring him back," Naruto said in sadness as he clenched his fists. "Ha, I told you to just kill the brat, it would have saved you and me a whole lot of trouble," Kurama, the 9-tailed fox that was sealed behind a cage within Naruto, said in annoyance. "Naruto, I was surprised to find a demon sealed within your mind. Can you explain to me why it's not as powerful as it once was?" Kami asked in curiosity. Hearing this confused him, then his current situation dawned on him. "Wait a minute, how did you even get in here in the first place and how do you know so much about Kurama?" Naruto asked as he tensed up just in case he was in trouble. "Relax, brat, and show some respect as you're in the presence of a higher being," Kurama says as he closed his eye, becoming bored with the situation. "A higher being, you mean like a god?" Naruto said as he stared at Kami in awe, making the mass of energy's head glow a little red, signifying he was embarrassed. "Well, yeah, I guess you can say that I am, but then again, so are you now, little bro," Kami says, surprising both Naruto and Kurama. "Well, to be blunt, I saw your battle with that other boy and afterwards looked into your memories and I have to say you had a very painful life," Kami said, which made Naruto's cast his head down. "For what it's worth, I know your parents never abandoned you. In fact, there is someone here to meet you, little bro," Kami says, confusing Naruto. Kami snapped his fingers and another body of energy. Once the energy died down, Kushina stood before Naruto with her eyes closed. Naruto and Kurama both stared at the women with mixed emotions. Kurama stared at her with anger, happiness and sadness, having known her since she was a little rugrat. Naruto looked at Kushina with curiosity, happiness and tears. Well, you're looking well, though a little malnourished, the redhead Uzumaki beauty says as she opens her beautiful blue eyes. Mom, Naruto says as tears fell from his eyes. Oh mom, I've always wanted to meet you. Oh mom, Naruto says as she held him in her arms. Oh my baby, it's okay. Mommy's here for you, Kushina says as tears also fell from her eyes. Mom, I have so many questions that I have to ask you, Naruto said as they wiped the tears from their face. I know Naruto-kun, and I know you had a hard life, however, I'm glad that you always stayed true to yourself, Kushina says. Kushina, well, I have to say that it's good to see you are here, although I still forgive you for chaining me to that ball when I was sealed within you. I will not hate you for it, Kurama says, which really means that he was glad to see her after 14 years. Well Kurama, it's good to see you too, however I wish your power weren't split like this, Kushina says to the fox, who just snorted, not caring either way. Mom, how do you know Kurama? Naruto asked, wondering why they were talking like two old friends. Kushina then explained the relationship between the Nine Tails, Senju clan and Uzumaki clan. So you were the jailer before me and the first Hokage's wife was an Uzumaki and the jailer before you? Naruto asked, which she nods at. Wow, that's a shocker, and I wish I was born with your red hair. I'd be way more popular with the girls back home, would have been all over me, Naruto said, which made Kushina blush. Kurama chuckled and gave Kami an idea. That's interesting, to think that your family would all have the ability to house a demon such as the Kyuubi, Kami says as he stood in front of the Nine Tails cage poking at the seal. Bro, I don't think that's such a good idea, Naruto says. Oh right, I almost forgot. Naruto, we are not on your planet anymore. In fact, for 1 year you will be staying with my family on a planet within the Milky Way galaxy, Kami tells him. Wait, what? Naruto asked in confusion. Well, you will be getting training from them until you are ready to go back, as there are people that will be after people like you, am I right? Kami says, making Naruto recall the Akatsuki. Okay, but first can you tell me where I am? Naruto asked. Why don't you wake up and see? Kami says. Alright. Well, I guess that I have to go now, mother. I guess I will see you when it's my time, huh? Naruto says as he started to disappear. I would just like to tell you that I'm glad I am your son, Naruto says as Kushina smiled at him with tears falling from her eyes. There are some important words I want to tell, only to the men who compliment my hair. Naruto-kun, I love you, Kushina said as her son vanished. Now then Kushina, it's time for you to come with me, as there is something else that you need to do. As it will be you that will watch over Naruto, Kami tells her. Huh, what will I be doing, Kami-sama? Kushina asked. That's where come in, Kushina-san, as I will make it so you who always be with your son. Though I surprised that you didn't tell Naruto-kun the full extent of what he is now, a beautiful blue-haired woman said. I will tell him when the time is right, Tsunami-chan, however, I believe you to have something to do. Well, I suppose we should get started, Tsunami giggled as she, Kami and Kushina disappeared. As Kurama lay within his cage, there was only one thought that went through his mind. Well, it would seem that my container's life will become a lot more interesting, and with that Kurama went into a year-long sleep, waiting the day when Naruto would need him once again. Planet Earth. Masaki residence. Tenchi and his family were all celebrating Nobuyuki Masaki and Rei Masaki's wedding, having a barbecue out by the dock. Tenchi was being cuddled by both Irie and Tenyo, much to Ryoko and Ayeka's dismay. Lady Seto was drinking sake along with Washu, Nobuyuki and Yosho. Sasami was bringing more food out for everyone along with Noik, Managi and Ryo-oki. Tokimi was busy talking to both Rei and Minaho about something that was important, although they would not allow anyone else know. As this was going on, Sasami suddenly drops the tray of food, which shattered on the ground as she looked up. This action seemed to grab everyone's attention. Sasami, is everything alright? Ayeka asks the question that was on everyone's mind. Yeah, it's just that I feel something coming, she tells them. Something's coming, you say? Could it be a new enemy? Noik asked, as the others, with the exception of Tokimi, Seto, Washu, Yosho and Irie. Everyone calm down, it's Tsunami-fun that is above us, although why as it appeared I have no idea, Washu tells everyone, which confused them. Why such a legendary ship would come to Earth, was the thought that ran through everyone's mind. Suddenly the legendary ship appeared right over the Masaki house, which made the Nobuyuki, Tenchi and Mihashi, who had been lying on the porch, freak out. Then a blue beam shot down from it towards the ground right in front of the porch. Someone coming out of the ship, Seto said as everyone started to move towards the house. Suddenly a ball of energy appears which confused everyone. Once the ball was only floating a few inches off the ground, the blue beam disappeared and then the tsunami foon vanished to parts unknown. I wonder you or what it is that tsunami has brought here, Tenyo says to Irie who was wondering the same thing. Wait, those are Lighthawk wings, Yosho says as he begins to inspect. Lighthawk wings, was the shocked reply of everyone present. Then the wing began glowing and they opened up. Who they saw surprised them, as they had never before seen the boy within the wing cocoon. Hey, who is the kid and why was he inside tsunami? Ryoko asked. I don't know, however, look at him, his clothes are ripped to shreds and look at those scars. He needs medical attention, Tenyo says as she lifts him up and takes him into the house with everyone else followed after her. Tenyo, bring the boy to my lab and I check him over, Washu tells the silver-haired beauty who nods as they enter the lab. The others decided to wait for them in the living room with Seto going inside as well. After a few hours, Tenyo, Seto and Washu exited the lab with Tenyo holding a little red fox. Hey, how is that kid and what's with the fox? Ryoko asked the question the others wanted to know. Well, that's the strangest thing. While I was running some tests, the boy just transformed into this little guy here, Seto said as she rubbed Naruto's head. But, how is that possible? And how what was with the Lighthawk wings? Managi asked. It seems that this child here was able to generate them subconsciously, Washu tells them. So there is one more person that is able to create the Lighthawk wings at will, Sasami says, which got a nod from the others. Suddenly the fox yawned, which made all of the women there have to retain themselves from turning into raging hormones. Naruto opened his eyes revealing blue orbs with cat-like slits in them. Where am I? He asked as his voice echoed within everyone's head. This seems to startle everyone, as they were not expecting his voice to enter their minds. You are currently at the Masaki household. My name is Tenchi Masaki, the son of Nobuyuki said as he offers his hand to shake Naruto. Naruto looks at the boy, then he jumps out of Tenyo's hand and began to transform. Once the transformation was complete, a young red-headed teen stood right before Tenchi. The redhead had a foxtail and 2 fox ears on top of his head. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, it's a pleasure, Naruto says as he raised his hand to shake Tenchi's hand. Suddenly, Sasami, Ayeka and surprisingly Managi all let out a scream, which startled Naruto and Tenchi. Turning to look towards the girls, they both saw them holding their hands in front of their face. Oh my, you are gifted for someone your age, Seto says as she giggles behind her fan. How would you like to become a guinea pig for one of my experiments? I would like to know more about that body of yours, Washu says playfully. Confused by this, gave a nerves-looking Tenchi a questioning glance, only for him to point down at Naruto. Looking down, he finally to notice of his lack of clothing. Washu-san, can I ask you something? Naruto says as he moves his tail to block his front. Only if you call me, little Washu, alright, she says in the cutest way she could muster up. Naruto then asked the question that everyone else wanted to know. Washu, can you tell me where you've hidden my clothes? After Tenchi had gotten Naruto a pair of his old cloths, Naruto began to tell them his story starting with his birth. 14 years ago, on the 10th of October, a 9-tailed fox appeared from out of nowhere and began to destroy my home, Naruto told them. Tenchi, Tenyo, Sasami, Ayeka, Managi, and Noik all gasped in shock as they all were told the legend of the great demon. Mihashi gave them all a confused look, as she had never heard of a 9-tailed fox before. Hey you guys, what is a 9-tailed fox and why do you guys look so scared? The clueless detective asked. Naruto's right eye began to twitch in agitation at being interrupted, while every stared at Mihashi as if she had grown a second head. Clearing his throat to gain everyone's attention, Naruto continued with his story. Continuing from where I was so rudely interrupted, Naruto said as Noik glared at Mihashi. As the beast rampaged through the village, our military went to face it on the front lines with our third Hokage, a 60-old man who was once known as the god of shinobi, Naruto explained. Wait, you telling me that an old man in his 60s led your military to face that demon? Ryoko asked. While annoyed, Naruto did smile as he thought about the third Hokage. While it's true that our third leader was a wrinkly old man, Let it be known that he was powerful enough to destroy an army single-handedly, Naruto said, shocking everyone. What? How is that possible? Tenyo said as the others thought the same thing. The only people I know that is able to do that are Sato and the Azusa, and that's only because of their royal tree ships. Irie says as the other nodded their heads in agreement. Well, I can tell you, the man did it with nothing but the power that resides within my entire race, for you see Shiranui is the world of shinobi. The battle against Kyuubi was long and many lost their lives against the beast, and the only one who was able to hold the Biju was the third. However, he would only be able to hold out for so long, Naruto says. Yes, and that is until our fourth Hokage appeared on the front lines and was able to hold it on his own. However, he knew that it would only be a matter of time before he too would be overwhelmed, as he was only human after all, Naruto explained to them. The group was on edge as Naruto told them the story. As he continued, it only seemed that they had more questions to ask. However, they decided to wait until he finished his story. Now keep in mind that the Kyuubi is a beast made of the energy of my world, and as such, it cannot die, along with the fact that its energy is limitless, Naruto explains to them. So with killing it out of the question, and so the best way to deal with a creature like that would be to either drive it away or seal it. And let me tell you, driving it away would have been impossible as well, so he decided to seal the demon. Hearing this, they all started to sigh at the as that seemed to be happening a lot lately. However, what Naruto said next was something they had not expected. Yes, he decided to seal him. However, sealing the demon is complicated. You cannot seal it within a non-living object or someone who has reached a certain age. Wait a minute, what do you mean by that? Why would a person's age and non-living objects affect the seal? Ryoko asked as she remembered being sealed within the cave. Well, to understand that you first need to understand what the Nine Tails was made of and the energy we used to create the seal. Naruto explains as he created a Rasengan in his left hand. Upon seeing the ball of energy, Washu suddenly appeared beside Naruto and began to study the chakra ball within his hand. Amazing, I can tell that your power has the potential to rival Jirai. Is that how most people on your planet are power? Washu asked, getting a nod from Naruto. My world's source of energy is what is known as chakra. Chakra is the combination of physical and spiritual energy created within the body, Naruto tells them. The nine-tailed fox is really a mass of concentrated chakra, so it can't be killed, and it constantly creates as much chakra as it uses. Tenchi and the others all shivered at the thought of such a demon, as they were glad they never had to deal with the monster. So how exactly did the fourth generation leader seal it, and what is your role in all of this? Managi asked. Suddenly everyone stared at him in shock, as they all thought about what Naruto had to do with the demon. By the look on your faces, I guess you guys have an idea on what my role was, Naruto states. When they gave the half-breed a hesitant nod, Naruto sighed as he asked Sasami if she would get him some tea. Of course Naruto-Nisan, Sasami said as she went into the kitchen and came back a few minutes later with a cup for him. Here you go, Oni-san. I hope you like it, Sasami said as she gave him a smile. Thank you, Sasami-ni-chan, Naruto said while offering her a smile of his own which made her blush. Managi looked somewhat distressed at this, wanting Naruto to pay attention to her, which didn't go unnoticed by her sister Ryoko, who was giggling much to her sister's dismay. After drinking all of his tea, Naruto decided to finish his tale. The fourth, although he had planned to seal it, knew that he could just seal it into a known living object as the Kyuubi would break free and then continue on its rampage, so the safest bet would be to seal the demon within a human, Naruto explained. Now while this was a good idea at first, there was another problem as the Kyuubi's chakra was like poison to humans and would have killed anyone who had an already developed chakra network within the body, Naruto told them. It was this thought that gave him the solution to his problem, as while demonic chakra was poisonous to adults, children and teens, it would have no effect on a newborn infant whose chakra network has yet to fully develop and could adapt to using the chakra with minimal backdraws. Now that he had a plan, the next thing he would need to obtain was a newborn child to perform the sealing. However, there was only one child born that day, and can you guess who that baby was? Naruto said with a grim look on his face. The only child born on that day was you. Managi states as everyone waited for Naruto to confirm this, although they knew it as the truth. Naruto sighed as he removes the shirt he had gotten from Tenchi. What they saw upon Naruto's stomach was a complex seal that even Washu had ever seen. This is the seal he used to seal the Kyuubi within me on the day that I was born. A seal that is directly connected to the Shinigami, Naruto declared, shocking everyone there. Wait, you're telling me that this seal is connected to Tokimi? Washu asked as the others gasped in shock. Tokimi? Who is that and what does she have to do with this? Naruto asked in confusion, wondering why everyone looked so startled by the mere maintain of her name. Why, that would be me, my dear Naruto-kun, said a woman as she appeared behind him and whispered huskily into his ear. Naruto turned a dark shade of red as he felt the woman's warm breath enter his ear. Washu gave her sister a deadpanned look, while Ryoko and Minagi gave the woman a nervous look. Tokimi Nisama, you were here the entire time? Sasami asked the goddess, who just shrugged her shoulders. So you had a hand in this, did you, sis? Washu asked the goddess as she changed into her adult form. Well, Washu, who do you think kept watch over that planet? The vengeful goddess states as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Tokimi-san, can you explain to me what you meant by you kept watch over that planet? Naruto asked as he tried to fight down the blush on his face. Tokimi just gave him a smile as she turned him towards her. She really is a goddess, was the only thing that ran through Naruto's mind as he stared at the gorgeous woman named Tokimi. Tokimi was a woman with light brown hair with a pendant at the center of her forehead. She had the most beautiful purple eyes Naruto had ever seen and had a face and figure that every woman within the third dimension would envy. Tokimi grinned as she watched Naruto stare at her with an awestruck look in his eyes. Oh, what's this, have you fall in love with me, Naruto-kun? Tokimi whispered into the young Uzumaki's ear. Startled, Naruto leaned away from her only to fall from the couch he was on, making Tokimi giggle in amusement. While this is fun and all, I believe that we should get back to the story, as you never told us what he did after sealing the demon, Sato said as Naruto got up off the floor and sat back down on the couch. Well, after the sealing the fourth, why don't I tell the rest of the story since I was the one that was there that day, Tokimi stated as she sat down next to Naruto, which seemed to agitate Sasami's and Minagi's. Minato Namikaze, also known as the fourth Hokage, had to when a man wearing a spiral mask appeared to intercept Minato hoping to cancel the sealing, Tokimi informed them, shocking them. Yes, apparently the Kyuubi was held by Naruto's mother and the man wearing the spiral mask had attacked her while she was giving birth to him, Tokimi explained. Naruto stared in shock as Tokimi explained Kushina's role in the whole ordeal. Naruto shot Tokimi a glare as she just revealed something that he was not ready to tell. Do give me that, I know you were going to leave the facts about your life growing up in that damned village, Tokimi growled as she said this, which startled the others and made Naruto look uncomfortable. However, it would be better in the long run if you tell them everything, Tokimi tells Naruto, who look unsure. Seeing this, Minagi and Sasami both grabbed his hands and offered him a few reassuring words. It okay, Naruto, you don't have to tell us the entire truth, no. But I hope that you will feel comfortable telling us someday, Sasami states too as Minagi nods her head in agreement. Naruto looked at both the girls as they gave him a pleading look, which he just could not resist. Sigh, alright, I promise that I will tell you the rest of the story when the time is right, Naruto said as he gave both girls a smile as he held their hands. To the others in the house, this was the most adorable scene that they had seen in a while, as they had not too long ago before the wedding had been in a giant battle that had revealed to them the truth about their universe. However, while they watched Naruto interact with the girls, they all had one thing on their minds as they thought about what Tokimi said. Just what was your life like, Naruto Uzumaki, and why did talking about it make you sad and Tokimi angry, they all thought. As for Naruto, he would occasionally glance back towards Tokimi as a different thought crossed his mind. Who are you, Tokimi, and why do I feel like I know you from somewhere? Hey, where is my headband? Naruto asked as he suddenly realized that it wasn't on his head. Konoha. Tsunade was pacing back and forth within her office as she waited for her Anbu to return with news on Naruto's whereabouts. Shizune was also in her office trying to keep Tsunade from leaving the village to go find him. Tsunade-sama, please, you need to relax, as I am sure that the Anbu will find him, you'll see, Shizune told her mistress, while also trying to convince herself the same thing. During her time back in Konoha, Shizune had been a nerves wreck as she remembered that she barely knew anyone, as most of her friends during the academy had either dropped out or had died on a mission. However, it was Naruto who had kept her company and made her feel welcome. Tsunade, however, just ignored her assistant as she continued to pace right in front of her own desk. Sighing in despair as her Naruto-kun was Mia, and it seemed that even the Anbu was unable to find any trace of him. Suddenly the Anbu she had sent to look for any trance of Naruto had returned, and by the look on their face, they had bad news. I see that you have returned, Bear. What did you find at the valley, and what are the status of Naruto's whereabouts? Tsunade asked the Anbu captain. Well, Tsunade-sama, I'm afraid to inform you that Naruto was nowhere to be found. But this is the only thing left at the valley, Bear explained as he handed Tsunade the bloody leaf ninja head that once belonged to Naruto Uzumaki. Shizune gasped as tears fell from her eyes. Tsunade, after accepting her little cousin's headband, she dismissed the Anbu as she went to her desk and summoned a slug. What is your order, my mistress? The abnormally large slug asks the Senju princess. I need you to find Jiraiya and tell him that I need him to come straight to my office immediately, Tsunade ordered as she started to clean the mess that she had at her table. Shizune, please, it's too soon to give up now. I need you to head to the hospital and make sure that there is a room ready for that big idiot Naruto, Tsunade said as she gave Shizune a reassuring smile. Shizune smiled back at her mistress as she wiped the tears away from her eyes. Yes, Tsunade-sama. I will go and get Naruto's room ready for him right away, and with that Shizune left Tsunade's office and headed to the hospital. After Shizune left, Tsunade leaned back in her chair and stared at the headband in her hand. Never again. I will not lose another loved one again, so Naruto, wait for me. With Naruto. Naruto sighed as he bathed within the Masaki's private bath. Man, today just seemed to be full of surprises, Naruto thought. Man, now what will I do? I need to train for the next 2 years so that when Tsunami-fun takes me back home, I will be able to prevent what happened on that retrieval mission, Naruto said to himself as he stood on top of the bath water. I guess I should ask if someone would train with me, though I really don't know how much stronger I can become with limited training that I know I can do basically on my own. Well, look at who I've just stumbled upon, a little fox all alone, Sato says as she enters to bath, which of course startled Naruto, making him lose control and sink into the water. A huge blush spread across his face. What are you doing in here? Naruto shouts as he resurfaces. Giggle at Naruto's misfortune. Sato places her towel and grabs Naruto's head, dragging him out of the water. I've come to help you wash your back and to talk to you about your little predicament, Sato says as she grabs a washcloth and told Naruto to turn around. Knowing that he couldn't escape this woman, Naruto sighed as he did as she asked, glad that he could hide the blush on his face. Naruto-kun, I came here to ask if you would allow me to be adopted you, Sato states as she began washing Naruto's back. This surprised Naruto, as he had never thought that Sato would offer to take him in and welcome him into her family. Why would you want to adopt someone like me into your family? What can I offer you? Naruto asked the true queen of Jirai. Oh, I'm pretty sure there is a lot that you can offer to me and to the royal family, young one, Sato whispered into Naruto's ear, making Naruto go completely red. Naruto then began to shudder, while trying to shake away the blush that was on his face. This of course got a giggle from the eternal beauty. Trust me when I say that you have a lot to offer me and my family, Sato said as she wrapped her arms around Naruto. Not only are you strong for someone your age, but you have had your family taken from you at a young age and you have led a harsh life while still retaining your sanity, Sato said. You will be a great addition to the Kamiki, Masaki family, and besides, children should have the chance to experience what it's like to be in a family, Sato tells Naruto, making a smile as he places his hand on hers. Thank you, Sato-sama, I would be honored if you would take me in, Naruto said as they leave the bathing room. Please, Naruto-kun, no need for formalities, after all we are family now, Sato tells him. Masaki house, dinner table. As everyone within the Masaki house sat and eat at the dinner table, Sato decided that she would use this time to welcome Naruto into the Masaki family. Everyone, I have an announcement make and it concerns our newest resident, Sato states as she stands, gaining the others' attention. What is that you wish to announce, grandmother? Sasami asks the woman. Yes, grandmother, what has happened that you need to tell us? Ayeka asked as she stopped arguing with Ryoko. Well, I would just like to tell you all that, me and Naruto have just become intimate with one another and he has agreed to be my second husband, Sato proclaims as a twisted grin appeared on her face. What? Was the collective response from everyone within the Masaki residence. Oh mother, what have to done? Noik thought in horror. Wow, never knew she was into younger man, both Ryoko and Washu thought. Managi had a crestfallen look on her face and she almost fainted. What was she thinking? He is way too underage, and she is a married woman, Tenyo thought. Oh god, I hope they didn't do it in the bath. It will be hard to take a bath in there until I have time to clean it now, Tenchi thought as he cried in despair. Sato then began to laugh maniacally, which let everyone know that she was only playing with everyone's head. Come now, did you really think I would allow a child to have his way with me? Well, maybe if he was a little older, Sato said as an afterthought, which got sweat dropped from the others. Okay, now that you've had your fun, Sato-sama, what is the real reason for this announcement? Katsuhito asked as he sipped his tea. Well, it's very simple, Prince Yoshio. I would like to announce that Naruto Uzumaki has become a member of the Jirai royal family and my new son, Sato declared. Wow, really, grandmother, you adopted Naruto Nisan? Sasami asked in excitement, getting a yes from the woman. Well, I guess that makes you a part of our family as well, Naruto, Tenchi states as he accepted Naruto right away. I suppose that since you are a part of the Masaki house now, we will need to begin your training soon. Oh, and I would like to hear more about your planet, Katsuhito said. Well, it looks like I have a cute little brother now, Noik states while offering Naruto his smile. Naruto, who was blushing in embarrassment, smiled. Welcome to the family, Naruto-san, Ayaka said. I feel sorry for you, as now you are family with Ayaka and her whacked-out family, Ryoko said playfully, only to be smacked in the face with a boom by Ayaka. Who are you calling whacked out? You better watch your mouth, Ayaka exclaimed. I'm just telling him the truth, little princess, was Ryoko's smug retort. No fighting at the table, you two, Tenchi warned them, which was ignored. Geez, those two will never grow up, Washu sighed in annoyance, at the fact that those two could not get over their differences for even one day. I'm happy for you, Naruto Dono, Managi states as she offered him a smile. Well then, a toast to Naruto and our ever-growing family, Tenyo says as everyone holds their glasses and cups into the air. Cheers, the residents of the Masaki house exclaimed as they partied through the night. The Empire Jirai and the royal family. Naruto-kun is dead, Hinata thought in horror. It had been a stressful day for Hinata. She had just been informed that Naruto was sent out on a mission the day before. From what she had been told, apparently, Sasuke Uchiha had defected from the village and Naruto along with Shikamaru, Choji, Kiba, and Neji had been sent to retrieve him. When she heard this, Hinata was surprised that Sasuke would follow his brother, defect from the village, and had been worried how Naruto had felt. Then the next day, Tsunade had announced that there would be a village meeting in front of the Hokage Tower. However, before she could go to the meeting, Tsunade had sent a messenger ninja to tell her to report to the Hokage Tower an hour before the meeting. Hokage office. Tsunade sighed as she stared at her village through her office window. This week had been stressful for the 5th Hokage and seemed to be getting worse for her. Suddenly, there was a knock at her office door and then she heard the grief-stricken voice of her assistant as she opened the door. Tsunade-sama, the ninja that you've requested has arrived, Shizune said as she motioned for the Rookie 9 to enter the Hokage's office. Shikamaru, Hinata, Shino, Ino, Sakura, Tamari, Kankuro, Gaara, Shino, Tenten, and Lee. I'm glad you could come, Tsunade said as she looked at each of her young ninja. Shikamaru looked mentally exhausted, something that was expected since he had just came back from a retrieval mission that ended in failure. Choji and Neji were not among the group, still in the hospital, recovering from serious injury, although they were not life-threatening anymore. What did you want to see us about, Tsunade-sama? Shikamaru asked his commander. I called you here because I have bad news to tell each of you, concerning Naruto, Tsunade said. This got Hinata's attention, as it had to be important if the Hokage wanted them to be a part of it. Shikamaru also noticed this, and just by studying the look in Tsunade's eyes, he could tell that something was wrong. If it's about something Naruto did, then why have you called us here? Kiba asked his commander, not really understanding why the Hokage called them there if Naruto was why she had called them. Kiba, if it was that simple, then Tsunade-sama would have only called Naruto in alone, Shino told his partner. Like Shikamaru and Hinata, he was also able to tell that something was wrong. Tsunade-sama, can you tell us where Naruto is? Hinata asked, wondering where her crush was. It's not like him to be late for something this important, Sakura asked her mentor. Sighing as she mentally prepared to tell them the bad news, Tsunade then pulled out Naruto's headband and placed it on her desk. This action confused them, excluding Hinata, Gaara, Shikamaru, Temari, and Shino. Is that? Hinata says fearfully as she stared at the headband with a fearful expression appearing on her face. It can be. This isn't happening, Shikamaru said as he dropped to his knees. A horrified look spread across his face. Temari turned her head away from the Hokage, and Gaara's eyes were so wide that they looked ready to pop out of his head. This seemed to startle the others. They had no idea what was going on. This headband was the only thing that was found at the valley that Naruto and Sasuke's battle took place. Well, this and a small puddle of blood that belonged to Naruto, Tsunade explained as she turned from the group. After hearing this and seeing the blood spots on the headband, the group suddenly felt a chill run through their spines as they came to their own conclusions. Naruto's headband was found while his body was gone. Also, Kakashi's ninja hounds were unable to trace his scent other than the blood that was left there. And this, Tsunade said as she pulled out the jacket part of Naruto's jumpsuit jacket with a fist-size hole through it. Hinata's drops to the ground and began to crying her eyes out in despair. She felt her world come crashing down, and she had many things that she regrets not telling him. Shino, who by now was greatly disturbed by the news that Naruto was dead, tries to comfort his younger cousin as best he could. However, all of his efforts were in vain. Gaara looked about ready to revert to his old self, hunt down Sasuke and feed him to Shukaku. Wait, the fist-sized hole is right where his heart and lungs would be. Mistaking it, that's the work of Chidori, Shikamaru thought as he glared at the jacket. Akamaru began to whimper as the lingering scent from the dried blood assaulted his nose. Sakura gasped in horror as she realized that she had just lost both her teammates. Why did this have to have happened? I shouldn't have begged Naruto to bring Sasuke back. Now I've lost both my teammates, Sakura said as tears fell from her eyes. Kankuro held his head down and Rock Lee held Tenten as she cried. Ino also was crying as well. Shikamaru was holding his head down and saying a prayer. I'm afraid that there is some more news that I must tell you, and it concerns Naruto's past and the reason he was orphaned at birth. Tsunade began, gaining the others' attention. Tsunade told them about the events that happened on the night of the Kyuubi's attack, what really happened, and how it had affected Naruto's childhood. Now everyone had a different reaction to this news. Kiba and Akamaru were streaming with rage at the villagers and at himself for not treating his partner in crime better. Gaara, who had already known about Naruto being a Jinchuriki and the fact that his life was as bad as his was, only seemed to make Gaara even angrier, to the point that his sand was churning around inside his guard. The others had sad looks on their face as they remembered how they treated Naruto during their academy days, with the exception of Shino and Shikamaru. Tsunade studied each of their reactions and then smiled a sad smile. Well, Naruto, it looks like you were able to change many of your peers' opinion of you, she thought as she cleared her throat, getting the others' attention. Now then, I will be holding a small funeral for Naruto, so after the village meeting, also your senseis are all aware of what's going on and will also be attending, Tsunade informed the still saddened rookie ninjas. At the very least, Naruto can finally be free from the hardships he had to face, Shikamaru said, getting nods from everyone excluding Hinata, who was still quietly sobbing. Well then, you are all dismissed, Tsunade told them. As they all left with Tsunade going 5 minutes later, they never noticed that they were being watched by a woman that seemed to be standing in a higher dimensional plane. Tokimi could not help but smile as she watched those that were dear to Naruto leave the Hokage Tower. Well, it seems that I was right about them after all. This is something that will motivate Naruto to become stronger, Tokimi said as Kami appeared before her. So, these are his precious friends that he went to the academy with. I can see why Naruto holds all of them dear, Kami said as he made the image of the change and they could see Naruto training with Tenchi. Yes, Sato-sama has 2 years to train Naruto, and by that time he should be as strong as Yosho, if not stronger, Tokimi said as a grin spread across her face. He might even become the ruler of Jirai one day, she said, causing Kami to stare at her in wonder. While that could happen, however, he will be too busy to even think about that, and besides, I learned that he wishes to become the leader of his village, Kami told Tokimi, who just snorted at the idea. Please, you think too small, and besides I think he should rule his entire planet, And besides, if he is being trained by Sato, then he will be taught how to rule a planet, Tokimi said. Well, whatever he chooses will be something that I will support, after all he is my little brother, Kami said as he vanished from the higher dimension. 1 week later. Welcome to planet Jirai Naruto-kun, Sato said as her royal tree ship the Mikagami landed on the Masaki family's home planet. It had been a month since Naruto had arrived at the Masaki residences and he had been using that time to get to know each member. Ayaka was the calm older sister that was always had a kind and gentle aura around her, unless Ryoko was annoying her. Ryoko was the wild older sister, who always got drunk and was always trying to get both Tenchi and him to drink or play a few pranks on Ayaka with her. Tenyo would use every chance she got to pet and stroke Naruto's ears and tail, much to his embarrassment, and what makes it even worse is that now Airi, Sasami, Noik, Mihashi, and even Sato were doing it. Naruto was always reduced to a purring little fox kit every time they are able to get their soft hands onto him. Mihashi and Naruto spent their time eating and naps with together whenever they could. As they hung out together, Naruto started to notice a few things about her that made him worry, were the instances where Naruto would lock eyes with the GP officer and seen a hidden pool of despair. Since then Naruto had felt more close to her than the other members had as far as troubled pasts go. Naruto then made it his mission to learn everything about her and maybe he could find a companion in her. Tenchi was the person that Naruto could see as an older brother and he felt that he could trust him with his life. Managi and Sasami were two girls Naruto felt a strong pull towards, and then there was Tokimi. Naruto had mixed about the goddess. On one hand, she was someone who loved to tease and embarrass him every chance she got. However, on the other hand, on a few nights when he found her stroking his hair at night while she stared down at him with a gentle look in her beautiful eyes. Then there was the fact that she was someone who Naruto felt as if he knew her. The Masaki family had also given him a history lesson on their own heritage and Naruto had found himself engrossed into the story of how Jirai came to be. Naruto-kun, did you hear me? Sato said, snapping Naruto back to reality. Huh? Did you say something, Okawa-san? Naruto asked the devil princess. Sato just smiled at him in amusement. Well, I just said that we are finally here, Airi said as Naruto noticed that they were standing in front of the palace. Huh, what is with this tree? Naruto asked as he stared at the abnormal liking tree at the center of the palace in wonder. This is the largest tree on Jirai Tenju, or the Tree of Heaven. Ayaka told Naruto, who was in awe at the tree. The Tenju houses the royal palace as well as the current emperor and his family, and the main homes of all of the imperial houses, as well as the royal arboretum, and it is here that all of the royal trees await a partner whom they shall bond with. Lady Sato told the young ninja. Now that's impressive. So this is the tree that Tsunami had given to the first emperor of Jirai. Reminds me of the story Kurama once told me about the sage of 6 paths who created my homeworld. Naruto told them, getting looks of wonder from the others. As they entered the palace, Naruto was drawn to the interior of the great tree. Everywhere Naruto looked, he saw multiple platforms and each seemed to be supporting a full-grown tree. Naruto could feel the power radiating from the trees in the palace wash over him. Naruto had to admit that it was a unique experience. By the look on your face, I bet you were not expecting something as grand as this, Sasami said with a smile on her face. That's the understatement of the century, the Jinchuriki said as they continued to walking through the palace, causing Sasami, Managi, Ayaka, Tenyo, Noik, and Mihashi to giggle. Ah, we have arrived, Sato said as they noticed that they were standing before 2 huge oak doors. She then turned towards the others as she had a few things to tell Naruto. Now then, Naruto, you will be meeting the Emperor of Jirai. However, I want to make things clear to you, Sato said, getting Naruto's undivided attention. Naruto knew that since he was as of right now Sato's guest, and he should show the rulers of this empire the respect they deserve. After all, they were allowing him to enter their family. While I do expect you to be respectful towards the king's wives, I don't particularly care about how you treat the king himself. In fact, you can be just as disrespectful towards that brat for all I care. Sato, with a huge demonic grin, spread across her face. Naruto and the others all sweat dropped. Well, that's Lady Sato for you, Washu said as everyone else just nodded their heads. Alright everyone, let's get the over with, as there are so many things that we will have to attend to after this meeting, Sato said as she pulled out one of her hand fans. She then opening the fan and Naruto saw 3 Z's on it. Noik and Ayeka both knock on the door to the room. "You may enter," said a deep voice that came from the other side of the door. "Ah, Lady Sato, I've seen that you have returned," Funaho Masaki, the first queen of Jirai, said, welcoming the devil princess. "Oh mother, I see you have returned, and you have brought Sasami, Ayeka, and Tenchi's group with you. Masaki Kamiki, the second queen of Jirai. So you've come back, and I see you brought Yosho, Sasami and Ayeka with you," Azusa said, completely ignoring the others much to Ryoko's annoyance. Azusa then took notice that there was a new member of their group and decided to ask about the boy. "And who have you brought along with you this time, Sato?" Azusa, the king of Jirai, asked as he noticed Naruto enter the room beside Sato while the others entered after them. "Yes, I am back, and as for this young man, why don't you introduce yourself?" Sato told Naruto, who nodded his head. "It's nice to meet you. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Kamiki," Naruto said as he gave them a formal bow. "Oh my, so well-mannered as well as handsome," Masaki said as she suddenly appeared before Naruto, startling the boy somewhat. "You are Masaki One-sama, am I right?" Naruto asked as he studied her facial features. "No doubt about it, she is definitely Sato's daughter," Naruto thought. "Oni-sama? Oh, you're just so cute," Masaki shouted excitedly as she gave him a bone-crushing hug. "Yup, no question about it. She is definitely Okawa-chan's daughter," Naruto said as he felt the bones in his body began to crack under the pressure. "Oh mother, you should stop, I think you're hurting him," Sasami said as Naruto's face began turning blue. "Well, better him than me," Ryoko thought. "I'm terribly sorry, Naruto-kun, but this is one thing you will have to get used to," Sato thought with a smile on her face. Poor Naruto, Managi, Tenyo, Nioke, Irie and Tenchi thought. Mihashi just giggled at the look on Naruto's face. "Her personality is something I'll never get used to," Washu said to Yosho, who just sighed and nodded his head. "Should I even ask why it is that you have decided to adopt another one, Sato?" Azusa asked, curious about the child before him. "The boy looks human, however those ears on top of his head say otherwise. I wonder if he is a half-bred," Azusa thought. "Is there a reason as to why you have brought this child before us today?" Funaho asked as she sent Naruto a warm smile. "Why, yes there is, and let you his story will interest you a great deal, as it was not I who found him and instead he was entrusted to us," Sato said as Masaki released Naruto. "Oh, do tell Okawa-sama. I would like to know this as well," Masaki said as she went to stand by her husband Azusa and her sister-wife Funaho. "It was Tsunami who brought this boy to us," Sato said, shocking the 3 rulers. "What, are you serious? It was Tsunami who found this child?" Azusa asked. "That's right, father, and the place that Tsunami found him will really shock you," Sasami said. "Yes, father, it would seem that he is from the planet Shiranui. The planet has been labeled as an S-class danger zone," Yosho said. "A child from Shiranui, but how and why would Tsunami save this child?" Azusa, Masaki and Funaho thought. "You're surprised. I know exactly how you feel, and I have to say that I was surprised as well, especially in the state his clothes were in and the fact that he was pasted out," Sato explained. Now Azusa was really curious about this bit of information. Mother, just what was his state when you found him?" Masaki asked. "Well, if you insist, see, it's like this. My, that sure was an interesting story," Funaho said after Seto, with the help of Naruto, explained the events that took place the day Naruto appeared at the Masaki residence. To say the 3 rulers were amazed by Naruto's story was like telling the shinobi nations that they had a godlike beast of destruction hanging right over their heads. It was almost unbelievable that 2 children had the power to call about a goddess from a blocked-off section of the universe. While Shiranui's galaxy was not that far away from Earth's, it still was isolated from the rest. Then there was the race of warriors that lived on the planet. As Naruto gave them a summary of his race and a demonstration of his power called the Rasengan and those shadow clones, the 3 rulers were surprised that there was a world whose power was on par with their own. This planet of elemental warriors was something to look into. However, what intrigued me more is this child's story, Funaho thought as she turned to look at her husband and sister, lover. "Well, I like this boy and I would like to hear more of his story, so I think I will welcome him into the Kamiki family," Masaki thought, and then she turned to see what her sister, lover, thought. "My Naruto-kun, it seems like Nei-chan will welcome you into the Masaki family as well. Now what will he decide to do?" Masaki thought as she and Funaho focused on Azusa. Sensing both his loving wives' gazes focused on him, Azusa was almost afraid to turn to make eye contact with them. It would seem that they had made the decision to welcome him into the royal family and now were just waiting on him to come to a decision. Not that I hadn't already decided to bring this future powerhouse into the family after that little demonstration of his growing power, the emperor. Now, I wonder what would happen if we allowed the boy to take the tree ceremony, Azusa thought. Nodding to himself at his ingenious plan, Azusa looked towards the group that stood before him. Seeing that they were all anxious to hear his decision and after nodding to his two wives, Azusa spoke in a loud and commanding but also kind and prideful tone of voice. I have made my decision, Naruto Uzumaki. In 3 days you shall stand before the residence of Jirai where you will be presented as a member of the Jirian royal family, Azusa said, surprising Naruto and getting happy smiles from the others in the room. However, before then you will go through a tree ceremony tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. sharp and we expect you not to be late, young man, Funaho, as she flashed Naruto a kind smile. Yes ma'am, I will be there 10 minutes early, Naruto said as he bowed his head in gratitude. You will also be our guest of honor at dinner tonight, so we will have to get you a tailor? Sasami, Tenyo, Managi, I want you three to go with him to help make sure he looks as dashing as possible, Masaki asks her the three girls. Managi and Sasami blushed at the thought of seeing Naruto dressed as a Jirian prince. They hoped that they could get a few pictures. Ryo-Oki meowed and jumped on top of Naruto's head and laid between his two fox ears. Tenchi, we have clothes already made for you, as you are the second prince, Funaho said to him. The rest of you girls as well, so you are all dismissed, Seto said as Tenyo led everyone out the room while telling them that she would lead them to the best tailor on Jirai. After they all left, Seto turned towards Azusa with a devilish grin upon her beautiful face. Well, it seems I was right when I thought you would want him to be a member of the family as soon as his demonstration of power. And would you believe that I was the person Tsunami decided to entrust the boy to? The devil princess of Jirai playfully taunted Azusa, who was inwardly scowling at the woman while he huffed at her. What is it that you want, you devilish woman? Azusa said while he inwardly sighed. I wanted to tell you that Tsunami has decided to do the ceremony herself and that she had a surprise for the child. With Tenchi's and Naruto's group. Well, now don't you two look handsome, Naruto-kun, Tenchi-kun, Tenyo said as the two boys modeled their new clothes for the girls. Naruto had on a white kimono with 2 red strips going from his shoulders to the bottom of the top half and a red sash around his waist that had the design of sakura petals on it. His tail was free thanks to an opening made for him. His hair was combed so that it spiked downwards, something Tenyo had to do it as Naruto tried to slash at the tailor for combing his ears. Tenchi wore a blue kimono that also had the design of sakura petals on them with a blue sash. Tenchi Dono looks as handsome as always, Ayaka said as she sighed in happiness. She and the girls all had their cloth ready for them and had gotten dressed before Naruto had gotten his done. Managi blushed at Naruto while she and Sasami took pictures of both Naruto and Tenchi as they struck a few poses that made them look cool. Meow, Naruto heard Ryo-Oki call out from behind a curtain to one of the changing rooms. Hey Ryo-chan, what are you doing back there? Naruto asked as he moved towards the curtains. Pulling back the curtains, Ryo-Oki stepped out in her human form, wearing a blue dress. You look great, Ryo, Naruto said, glad to see her using that form again. Naruto had been pleasantly surprised when he found out about Ryo-Oki's human form the second day he stayed with the Masaki family. Seeing that Naruto had like her human form, Ryo-Oki had decided that she would practice getting more used to her more adult form, secretly hoping that one day he might look at her as a potential mate. Ryo-Oki jumped into Naruto's arms and began to lick his face. Sasami laughed at the surprised look on Naruto's face when he caught the Cabot girl while Managi just shook her head. I see that you guys are having fun, a woman said as she walked into the room. She had long black hair and wore a pink and white kimono. This young woman was the daughter of Yosho and Iri, Minaho Masaki. Oh hey Minaho, I see that you are enjoying your time away from Lady Seto, Tenyo said as she and Sasami giggled when the woman who usually held herself with the air of feminine grace and Jirian pride held her left hand to her head and gave an exasperated sigh. You girls just don't know how good it feels to see anything other than the inside of the Mikagami and that twisted grin Lady Seto makes when she is attacking pirate fleets or torturing anyone that has the misfortune of crossing her on one of those days. The poor souls, Minaho said as she lets out another sigh. He. Well, I think you will be happy to know that Obaa-chan has found someone willing to put up with her eccentricities and her split personality, Sasami tells her. Suddenly, Minaho's eyes lit up with hope that her days being Sito's favorite plaything would come to an end and that some poor sucker, nice young individual would be more than happy to take her place. Really, oh how wonderful. So who is this person that will keep Seto preoccupied? The beautiful young woman asked. There he is right over there. Naruto-kun, would you come here please? Tenyo called to the young fox who was being still holding Ryo-oki. What is it, Nei-chan? Naruto asked as he and Ryo-oki walked over to the girls. Tenchi was preoccupied at the moment, trying to get Ayeka to choose some kimonos to take home when they leave. I'd like you to meet the daughter of Yosho and Irie. This is Minaho Masaki, Tenyo said as Naruto and Minaho made eye contact. Naruto flashed Minaho a smile as he held out his hand. Hello, I'm Sito's new adopted child, it's nice to meet you, Naruto told the surprised Minaho. Who is this lovely creature? Minaho thought as she looked at the little Jinchuriki. She began to study the child before her in wonder. A cute little red-head boy with 2 red ears on top of his head. He had a single red tail that was swaying left and right. Suddenly, Naruto found his face to bosom with Minaho as she began caressing his ears. Ryo-oki just smiled at the scene before her as she found her family's antics to be sweet. Oh, he's so cute, I just can't let Seto keep him all to herself, Minaho coed, in happiness as she held the little fox child as she petted him. Sasami, Tenyo and Minagi all giggled as they heard the little happy purrs that escaped Naruto's mouth. Naruto just sighed as he resigned to his fate. At dinner, the celebration dinner seemed to go without a hitch. Naruto had gotten to meet many more of the members of the royal family. He met Lady Azusa's mother and father, Amami Masaki Jirai and Kazuki Yatsuga. After introductions were out of the way, Irie had told him about Amami leaving the royal family after meeting and falling in love with Kazuki. Naruto had been intrigued by their story and had asked if they would share their side of the story. They had been more than happy to tell Naruto as they had taken a liking to the young fox as soon as they met. Kazuki had told Naruto about the custom on Jirai, said that an incoming cadet go through a staged trial, by which they save a girl from a group of drunks. Amami then told Naruto how when Kazuki arrived, he saw a young woman being assaulted by drunken men and went to rescue her. However, this was not the custom event, as Amami quickly realizes and moves in to save him. Afterwards, she asks why he did not have his gun, to which he answered that he didn't want to risk shooting anyone. Amami then decides to train him in Jurian martial arts, and soon falls in love with him. Once his tour of duty is over, Amami decides to marry him, at the cost of her royal status. After they finished their story, Tenyo brought Naruto over to meet Sito's husband. Naruto, I'd like you to meet Utsutsumi Kamiki Jirai, she told Naruto, who bowed to the man. Utsutsumi laughed out loud before patting Naruto on the shoulder for being so formal. Ha ha ha, my boy. There's no need to be so formal, after all you are a welcome addition to our great family, Utsutsumi said as he offered his hand to shake Naruto's. Standing straight, Naruto shook hands with the head of the Kamiki family. So you are Okawa-san's husband? Naruto asked, curious about how he fell for her. Well, at the time, I was only given 2 choices by Seto, and that was either she'd kill me or I marry her, and you can tell which opinion I chose by the fact that I'm here talking with you now, he told Naruto while laughing at those memories. Naruto also started laughing at the man while sweat rolled down the back of his head. What makes it worse is that I can actually picture that happening, Naruto thought. After everyone got seated, Azusa made a toast to Naruto becoming a member of the family. Masaki and Funaho clapped for Naruto while Minagi, Sasami, Irie, Mihashi, Tenyo, Tenchi, Minaho, Yosho, Ryoko Ayeka, Washu and Ryo-oki all congratulated him. After that, Seto announced that Naruto would be going through a tree ceremony the next day. This got more congrats from the others, and then they all began the feast while they began to have light conversations with one another. Next day, Naruto stood before Tsunami's tree with Azusa, Masaki, Funaho, Seto, Sasami, Minagi, Ryo-oki and Tenyo all waiting beside him. The others had yet to awaken and would not be up until a few hours after the ceremony was completed. They had apparently partied too hard after Naruto, Sasami, Managi, Ryo-Oki and even Tenyo had turned in for the night. After Tenyo showed Naruto to his room, got dressed for bed and fell asleep, Sasami, Ryo-Oki and Managi all snuck into his room. They all got into the king-size bed with him and cuddled up to him before falling asleep as well. When Naruto had woke up, he was shocked that they had been in bed with their heads lying on his chest and Ryo-Oki in her kabut form curled up in a ball asleep next to his neck. Naruto had almost allowed them to sleep had Seto and Misaki not made her presence known by taking a picture with a digital camera they had bought during her time on Earth. "Ah, young love, how sweet," Misaki said while sighing at the scene before her, as a devilish grin appeared upon Seto's lips. Seto would likely tease them about this for many years to come. Something that Sasami was dreading. Know how her father would react if he had ever found out. "Just wait for me guys, I'll come back stronger and I'll introduce you to my new family," he thought as he turned to look towards the three girls. As these thoughts bounced around in Naruto's head, the fox-tailed teen looked towards the three girls that had snuck into his room. Sasami and Managi blushed and gave each a bright smile. Their bashfulness caused Naruto to blush as well. Ryo-Oki smiled at him and as well which he returned. As he smiled back at them, the others all smiled as they saw the four future lovers. Even Azusa, although his was a bit strained and the fact that he was sweating bullets. When Azusa and Funaho had went to get Naruto this morning, hoping to learn more about the boy and his world, they had walked in on Naruto helping Managi and Sasami out of the boy's bed. Funaho had then decided to give them all the talk, much to their horror, and Azusa's mind seemed to shut down before it restarted and he began shouting about his little girl being defiled, while he began running around like a headless chicken. It had been a very awkward situation until Seto had clotheslined the man, knocking him unconscious. "Why don't you take this brat to the Arboretum and make sure he knows not to interfere with them?" Seto told Misaki and Funaho, who nodded their heads and began to drag Azusa's unconscious body away. As Azusa watched them look into each other's eyes, he felt his overprotective father personality began surfacing again. Sasami was his little girl after all, and the reason he wasn't freaking out right at that very moment was because it was Naruto's tree ceremony. That and the fact that Misaki, Funaho and Seto were all glaring at him, daring him to try something, which was the reason why he was sweating so much. "Alright, I'm ready. Tell me what I have to do to get this started," Naruto said as he took a deep breath. Seto told Naruto that he should think only thoughts that help him keep calm and collected. Suddenly all the royal trees within the Arboretum began to glow as they emitted a light blue energy. Naruto stood in awe as their power washed over him. The power had a calming feel to it, as if they wanted to make sure Naruto's mind was at ease. Suddenly Naruto heard the voice of Tsunami call out to him. "Come to me, Naruto, and we shall begin the ceremony of synchronization," the goddess Tsunami said, her voice echoing all through the Arboretum. As Naruto began to head towards Tsunami, Managi had tried to follow only for Seto to stop her from going after him. Then a large tree that was at the very bottom of the Arboretum started to glow and Naruto felt the presence of the goddess try to guide him down to the core of Tenju. "What is this? Tsunami has deemed this boy important enough that she would perform the ceremony herself," Azusa asked out loud. Seto, Masaki and Funaho were just as shocked about this as well. The goddess had not done the ceremony herself since the first Jirean emperor, and for her to be willing to perform it now would mean only one thing. A very powerful tree seed would become Naruto's. Naruto descended down towards the Tenju's huge tree core that was at the center. A few of the tree's branches and leaves parted to reveal Tsunami. The goddess seemed to be growing from the tree's center and she was staring down at him with a loving smile on her face. Because of the fact that she also resided within Sasami, Tsunami had been there with them every time they had spent time together. Tsunami had known that Sasami had been slowly falling in love with Naruto, and because they were slowly merging, Tsunami had begun falling in love with the boy as well. Tsunami then began to emerge from the tree, exposing her flawless naked body to Naruto, who felt all his blood began to rush towards his head as his face turned beet red. Was Naruto intelligent? Response which caused the goddess to giggle at him. Snapping her fingers, a kimono appeared on Tsunami, covering her womanly body from Naruto's mesmerized days. The kimono was white and seemed to only reach just past her midriff, while keeping her long legs exposed to the foxboy. The top, however, didn't seem to hide her chest much, seeing as she bust was a D cup. Smiling at the boy, Tsunami closed the distance between them and held his left hand within hers, snapping him back to reality. Naruto, this seed I'm about to bestow upon you is one of my precious children Mizuo, one of the very first seeds created before Jirai was born, Tsunami told him. Promise to me that you will always love her and care for her as if she were your own, and promise me that you will never abandon her no matter the situation, the goddess asked him. Naruto felt something touch the palm of his hand. Opening it, he saw a seed the size of a solder pill resting in his hand. As a smile appeared upon his face, Naruto looked eyes with the most beautiful sister of the Chosen and told her, I promise about my ninja way and my soul to cherish this precious gift you have given me, and I promise to protect that which is precious to me, Naruto said. Tsunami could feel the passion within that promise. So strong, yet so very kind, that was the young man Naruto was. He would come a great man someday, Tsunami though. Suddenly Mizuo made her presence known by sending a ray of light towards Naruto's chest. Now what I want you to do is place Mizuo here, Tsunami said as a small platform. It reminded Naruto of the platform Ayeka used for Ryu-Oh. Studying it closely, he noticed that it used a very unusual type of soil. Hey, what is this? The soil is emitting a small amount of Mizuho's energy, Naruto states as he puts Mizuo at the center. Now in order to begin the imprinting process you will need to place a small amount your chakra into her seed and then the process will be done, Tsunami explained to the second child who nodded his head. As Naruto held the platform, he closed his eyes and began to concentrate on placing his chakra into Mizuo. Okay, I think the best way of doing this is to feed her in small amounts so that she getting used to it. That way I don't overload her, Naruto thought as his hand started to glow a translucent blue color. Mizuo started to glow white as she absorbed his chakra. She then started shooting radiant beams of light, very which way signaling the process had begun. She then grew a stem with 2 pink leaves that had a small red line at the base, signaling that her form was a sakura tree. Naruto opened his eyes and was in awe by the light display. It was the most amazing thing he had ever seen in his life. He then noticed that he was glowing as well. Suddenly a halo appeared above his head and 2 light hawk wings appeared on his back. However, what surprised Naruto was that they looked nothing like Tsunami Fun's wings and looked more like translucent angel wings. Hey, look, is that Naruto? Tenchi asked as the rest of the group along with the 3 rulers had suddenly appeared to see the rest of the process. Those are the Lighthawk wings, but how was he able to generate them like that? And look at the halo, Ryoko said as she and the others stared at Naruto in bewilderment. Tsunami and Naruto turned to the others as one of Mizuo pointed towards their direction. Tsunami smiled at them as she moved beside Naruto while placing her hands on his back, causing to look at her a smile, before turning to address the other. Everyone, I'd like you all to meet my new partner Mizuo Uzumaki Jirai, Naruto states as Mizuo light beams began dancing around all around her, Naruto and Tsunami, displaying how excited she was. Kusagakure was a lesser village within the elemental nations. It was a village located within a country that was mostly a rich forest with abnormally large vegetation. Somewhere within the forest we come to a cave entrance. Inside the cave we find a teen with ash-gray hair that was kept in a ponytail, circular glasses and a forehead protector with a music note on it. This teen was Kabuto Yakushi, Orochimaru's right-hand man. The cave that Kabuto was in was very dark as it was underground and there were no torches. The walls had a very unique snake theme to them, giving the hideout a creepy feel to it. After walking through the dark corridors for what seemed like an hour, Kabuto finally came to a stop before 2 large doors that led to what seemed like the main chamber. Grabbing hold of the door handles, Kabuto opens them and then walks into the chamber that, like the rest of the place, was not lit up by any light and so it made it hard to see inside the place. I have returned Lord Orochimaru, Kabuto said as he closed the doors behind him. Ah, welcome back Kabuto, I trust that you have news about Konoha. A serpentine voice said, piercing through the darkness. Yes, it would seem that Naruto has been confirmed dead, Kabuto said with a smirk on his face. Oh really, and what of the 9 tails, has it vanished as well? Orochimaru asks Kabuto. Its whereabouts are currently unknown and this has the higher-ups in the leaf in on edge. Kabuto tells the snake Sanin as touches lit up the room revealing a man that had his face wrapped in bandages, sitting on a throne. I see, this will undoubtedly cause a commotion with that group, It might cause them to hold off a little longer as well, even though I have no idea when they will act, Orochimaru thought as he turned to his right. What do you think about this, Sasuke? The Sannin asked the person that had been standing in the right corner of the room in the only place that was covered darkness. Naruto is dead, don't be stupid, Kabuto. The young Uchiha states from his position in the dark corner. Oh, so you believe he is still alive then, Sasuke? Kabuto asked the Avenger. I don't have to think. I already know he is alive. Sasuke said as he walks out of the darkness. It's none of my concern now, what matters to me now is my vengeance. Sasuke said as he opened his eyes, revealing the Mangekyo Sharingan. Jirai, presenting the child handpicked by Tsunami and the third prince of Jirai, Naruto Kamiki Jirai. Azusa, the emperor of Jirai, said as Naruto came hovering in on a floating platform. The citizen of Jirai all clapped and cheered as Naruto entered the grand hall. Among the citizens, Naruto spotted Sasami, Managi, Tenyo, and Tenchi all sitting at one table that was close to the stage. Seto, Azusa, Funaho and Misaki stood on. At the table next to them Washu sat along with Ryoko, Ayaka, Noik, and Mihashi. After coming to a stop at the stage, the emperor and his wives stood on. Naruto started waving one of his hands at the citizens as in giving them all a bright smile which caused a few hearts to skip a beat, much to Seto's amusement. Once Naruto stepped on the stage, Azusa turned to the teen while Misaki and Funaho presented him with a sword handle and a new headband. The sword looked like an exact replica of the master key that Tenchi wields, with the exception that its handle had the Uzumaki crest at the center on both sides. The headband had a black cloth that had two red strands on each and a steel plate between them. The steel plate had the image of the tsunami tree engraved on it with the Uzumaki swirl on the tree. Naruto Uzumaki Kamiki Jirai, the child who was handpicked by both the goddess Tsunami and the lady Seto Kamiki Jirai. We present to you the Naruto Ken, or the Maelstrom sword, and this headband that will create a Jireian battlesuit for you. Azusa explained as he handed Naruto the headband. After Naruto placed the headband to his forehead, Naruto along with the headband started to glow a translucent orange. Once the glow died down, Naruto stood there in a battlesuit that, while also similar to Tenchi's, was black and orange instead of blue and orange. Another change in this form is that Naruto's whisker marks were thicker. Azusa then hands Naruto the Maelstrom sword and asks Naruto to bow down on one knee. Azusa then pulls out his own sword and places it over Naruto's left shoulder. From this day forward, the title of the third prince in line for the throne now rests on your shoulders. Carry it with pride, my child. Azusa tells Naruto as the people all clapped and cheered for the half-breed prince. Naruto then stood up and turned to face his newfound family. As he listened to the cheers of his people, Naruto had felt the genuine excitement of the citizens. Naruto gave the people a short bow before stepping back to all Azusa to take the stage so he could finish the ceremony. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Azusa said. Elemental nations. Jiraiya, the great toad sage of Mount Myoboku, was in a very bad mood. He had left the village for a few days to meet up with someone from his spy network. Apparently, one of his spies had learned that the Akatsuki had already located each Jinchuriki like Itachi and Kisame did with Naruto, and have gone into hiding in a place that most of his network could not reach, meaning that information would be hard to get a hold of. If that wasn't bad enough, as soon as he returned to the village, he learned that his student had gone missing and all that was left was his old headband that they found in a pool of his blood. If that wasn't bad enough, when he had dropped the toad summoning scroll, it opened to show that Naruto's name that had been written in the young Uzumaki's blood had disappeared completely, as if it had never been written. This had disturbed the sage, and he had left the village the next day, telling Tsunade that he would keep searching for any clues as to Naruto's whereabouts and the Akatsuki, believing that Naruto was still out there. Jiraiya now finds himself at the Valley of the End, where Naruto fought Sasuke, looking for anything that might give him a clue on where to start look for his last student's legacy. As he kept looking all around the area, he was suddenly forced to jump out of the way as an energy ball the size of a fireball jutsu shot towards him. Once the ball of energy hit the ground, it exploded, destroying the statues of Hashirama and Madara and a large chunk of the valley. What the hell was that just now? That energy ball of death just destroyed most of the valley, and if that wasn't enough, that ball of death was on par with a Biju ball, maybe even stronger. Jiraiya said to himself. All right, I don't know who you are and I don't know why you are trying to kill me, however, I'm in a hurry, so why don't you come out and let's make this quick. Long time no see, Jiraiya the frog charmer, it's been 8 years, hasn't not? Said a feminine voice that echoed through the valley and seemed very familiar to Jiraiya. Just who are you and what do you want? Jiraiya asked as his heart started beating very fast for some reason. Suddenly, the world around Jiraiya began to vanish, and the next thing he knew was that he was staring into a black void with millions of tiny lights all around him. Where am I? It looks almost like the night sky. The sage thought as he looked around. Why, I'm hurt, pervert. I can't believe you've forgotten about me, especially after I left you and the village standing after that incident 9 years ago. The woman whispered in his ear after she appeared right behind the sage. Hearing the person up close caused Jiraiya to turn ghostly pale as he recognized that evil childlike voice belonging to the one person that Jiraiya feared the most in this world. Slowly turning to the person, Jiraiya became whiter than Orochimaru as he laid eyes on the teen before him. This girl looked to be in her early 20s with long brown hair and an hourglass figure. Her eyes were an eerie purple color and she has gold orb at the center of her forehead with 4 orange strands. She wore an elegant dress that seemed otherworldly and purple gloves that seemed to be concealing clawed hands. This is the woman that disappeared after murdering more than 50 villagers, 10 Anbu and 4 Chunin that had almost succeeded in killing Naruto 9 years ago. I'd never thought I'd see you again. Tokimi Hakuba, Jiraiya thought as he started sweating bullets. What are you doing here, Tokimi? Jiraiya asked the goddess before him. This woman was literally the most dangerous person in the ninja world after Minato had died. She appeared one day out of nowhere when I was looking for Naruto, who had ran into the forest of death to hide from a mob that was hunting him down. Flashback. Get the demon, don't let it escape, kill that monster, that damn demon child. Jiraiya heard some villagers shout out as he ran on the rooftops looking for any sign of Naruto. Come on, kid, where are you hiding? Jiraiya thought as he continued jumping through the village. 20 minutes later, Jiraiya came to a stop right before the entrance of Training Ground 44. Damn it. No wonder why the brat is so good at hiding. He had 2 years to practice thanks to those damn villagers. I've looked everywhere in this damn village and I still can't find him. Suddenly, the ground began to shake and strong winds started to gather above the forest of death. What the hell, is this an attack? No, I don't sense any chakra from that. Jiraiya thought as an invisible force descended into the forest. As soon as it landed at the center of the forest, a huge shockwave swept through the area, destroying the gate and creating a huge crater. The force alone pushed Jiraiya back a few yards. Damn it, all this just had to happen right when I'm looking for Naruto, Jiraiya said. Jiraiya then jumps past the destroyed gate and ran towards the center of the forest. Everywhere he looked there was destruction. Trees were uprooted, laying in pieces and burned to a crisp. All of the animals within the vicinity were instantly killed as well. Great. Jiraiya comments as he sees burned animal carcass on the ground. Once Jiraiya reached the heart of the forest, Jiraiya was greeted to a very interesting sight. There at the center of the chaos stood a girl that looked around 12 than Naruto, kissing said boy on the cheek. At that time I had never thought that the girl Tokimi would be feared as the Black Witch of Konoha and that she would leave Naruto in the same village that she once threatened to destroy. End of flashback. And there she stood before him after those 9 years, all grown up and 10 times more terrifying than she was 9 years ago. I brought you here to talk about Naruto and his future, Tokimi said, getting straight to the point. Suddenly Jiraiya looked about ready to have a heart attack. Having been gone for 9 years, Tokimi shouldn't have known about Naruto's supposed dead. Jiraiya thought as his life started to flash before his eyes. Know that Naruto is under my sister's care and he will be in need of some training. I believe that you are the person best suited for the job, Tokimi states, knowing that would cause Jiraiya to halt his rapid thoughts. Cue record scratch. Wait, what did you say? Jiraiya asked the goddess, who had a grin across her face. You heard me, pervert. Naruto is alive and well, living with my sister and her family. Did you really think that I didn't know what happened during his last mission? Tokimi asked in amusement. But how? Jiraiya asked with a bewildered look on his face. I also know that you left Naruto alone within the village after I disappeared, Tokimi said as a dark aura began to rise behind her. But after you disappeared, all the assassination attempts stopped because of what you did to Hiruzen. even though everyone in the village had their memories erased except me and Hiruzen. Jiraiya states as he started sweating bullets. You can relax, Jiraiya, I don't plan to harm or kill you. Tokimi told the Sannin, I still have a use for you, and besides Naruto would hate me for killing his master. Tokimi said, causing Jiraiya to sign in relief. By the way, where exactly are we anyway? I know that this isn't a genjutsu, as the only chakra signature around here is mine. Jiraiya said, oh, I guess you wouldn't know now, would you? Well then I'll give you a clue as to where we are not. Tokimi said with a sly grin plastered on her beautiful face. Look behind you, she told Jiraiya, who had a confused expression on his face as he turned around. I don't see why she can't just tell me where she has brought me instead of making me. What the hell? It can't be. Jiraiya shouts out as he comes face to face with the ninja planet Shiranui. Jiraiya the Toad Sage, welcome to the world beyond the elemental nations, the galaxy. Tokimi said as she watched as Jiraiya stare at his home in awe. With Naruto. Naruto gave a sigh of relief as he made his way through the halls of Jirai. He had a small wooden bucket in one hand and a toe and soap for his hair in another. It was a couple of hours after the ceremony and Naruto was looking to relax in the royal family's private bathrooms. After the ceremony, Sasami had gave him a tour of Jirai and they had spent the majority of the day meeting as many of the citizens as they could. Afterwards, Naruto and Sasami had a small picnic in the royal garden along with Tenchi, Tenyo, Managi, Mihashi, Ayeka, Ryoko, and Noik. Man, I'm glad all that formal stuff is over and done with, now I can relax for the night. Naruto said to himself with a big happy smile on his face. As Naruto reacted where the baths where he noticed that it had a similar appearance to a sento, those Japanese public bathhouses that he used to go to with his teammates and sensei. After getting undressed and wrapping his towel around his waist, he walked out of the changing room and came to a stop as he stared at the hot spring pool in awe. Wow, this looks even better than the ones back at home, woohoo! Naruto shouted out in excitement as he jumped into the springs. Naruto then began swimming from one side of the springs to the other. He then began to run on top of the water, and then he started to skate on the surface before doing a baseball slide which caused him to sink under the water. As he resurfaced, Naruto sprayed a large amount of the spring's water. Ah, nothing beats the hot springs of the Jiren family. Naruto said as he started floating on his back. Well, now if it isn't the cute little fox prince of the Jiren royal family. A woman who had just entered the bathing room said, causing Naruto to jump in surprise. Oh, he's the one that Seto-sama just adopted, am I right, auntie? A second person said, which sounded like a slightly older version Mihoshi's. Turning towards where he heard the two women, Naruto's face turned dark scarlet as he laid eyes on the two beautiful women standing by the entrance. She also had a second smaller towel that she used to cover her boobs to keep them from bouncing all over the place. The second woman surprisingly looked like a slightly older Mihashi and had a body that was identical to said GP officer. Who are you, and didn't you see the sign? This is the men's bath. Naruto said as blood began to leak out of his nose. Now young one, there's no need to be shy. The older woman said as she wrapped her arms around Naruto from behind. Oh, and before I forget, my name is Mikami Kuramitsu. It's a pleasure to meet you, Naruto Kamiki. The woman said as she hugged him. The softness of her buxom caused Naruto to start doing a good impression of a red chili pepper, as his entire body turned bright red and streams started shooting out of his ears and radiating off of his body. The PLE, please, pleasure is all mine, Mikami Dono. Naruto stuttered out while standing there unable to move. Tsunami-sama, they're huge, and they're incredibly soft, Naruto thought as he felt himself be pulled away from Mikami's grasp. Hello, my name is Mitoto. I'm Mihoshi's mother and Mikami's niece. I'm so glad to meet you. The slender woman said as she gave Naruto a radiant smile. Nice to meet you, Mitoto-san. But why are you two here? Isn't this supposed to be the men's side of the hot spring? Naruto asked the two after calming down, catching his breath. Oh, you didn't know? This is a co-ed hot spring. Mitoto said nonchalant about the fact that the only thing keeping Naruto from seeing her in her birthday suit was the towel she had on. Yeah, well, I'm going to leave now, so enjoy the springs. Naruto said as he started to leave the water only to be pulled back in by Mikami. Why are you leaving so soon, Naruto? There is no reason for you to leave just because. There are two beautiful naked women bathing right in front of him. Mikami said, causing Naruto's fox ears to twitch. I agree. A little skinship is a great way to get to know one another. Mitoto said as she began to massage his ears. That just not far, Mitoto-san. Why do girls always go for my ears? Naruto thought as he started to relax. Why don't you let me wash your back, Naruto-kun? Mitoto asked while nodding a bottle of what Naruto guessed was soap. The fox demigod, while still embarrassed, decided to just comply with Mitoto's wishes, so as to not upset her, and turned to face Mikami so that his back was to the young-looking mother. That's a good boy, now here's your reward. Mikami said as she kisses him on the cheek, causing Naruto to blush. So Mikami dono, can I ask you something? You want to know what me cup size is, right? Mikami states with an amused look on her face. Oh my Naruto, how daring of you. Mitoto said, making Naruto turn blood red. No, it's not that I wanted to ask. Naruto exclaimed, which caused the two Kuramitsu women to giggle at how cute he was. Well, for starters, you can stop with the formalities, it just makes me feel old. Mikami said. I want you to do the same for me, Naruto-kun. No need to be formal with me neither. Mitoto states as she starts to rinse his back by dumping the hot water that she had poured in Naruto's bucket. Okay, then how about Mika-chan and Mito-chan? Naruto asked, startling the two older women. Suddenly, Naruto was glomped by both Mikami and Mitoto, who were being controlled by their raging hormones. You are just adorable, Mikami purrs as she rubs Naruto's cheek with her own. Can I keep you, Naruto-kun? Mitoto asked as she rubs Naruto's other cheek. Note to self, calling them Mika-chan and Mito-chan makes them want to use you like a teddy bear. Naruto thought as he decided to accept his fate, already knowing from past experience from Minaho, Seto, Irie, and Tenyo that there was no escape. Oba-san, Okawa-san, is that you? What are you doing to here? Mihashi asked, drawing the older Kuramitsu women and Naruto's attention. There standing at the entrance was none other than Mihashi, Sasami, Ryo-Oki and Minagi. Naruto just stared at each of them with an unreadable expression on his face as his brain could not process what seen before him. All four girls stood there naked, with the only thing keeping Naruto from seeing anything was the towels that they wore. Oh Miho-chan, Sasami-san, Minagi and Ryo-chan, there you are, why don't you came and join us? Mitoto suggested as she turned towards the girls while still holding Naruto close to her body. Upon seeing Naruto in the hot spring with nothing covering him except the towel around his waist, caused Minagi to let out a cute-sounding squeak and tried to hide behind Sasami and Mihashi. This seemed to amuse Mikami, who started to giggle at the Minagi's embarrassment, finding her adorable. Meow, Ryo-Oki said as she jumped into the water and swam towards Naruto. She then grabbed a hold of Naruto's arm and began to rub her head on him, causing Naruto to start sweating bullets. Oh hey Naruto, what are you doing here? Sasami asked upon seeing the object of her affection. Oh hey girls, fancy meeting you here. Naruto said nervously as he started to blush and turn away from the girls so as to not be tempted to stare. Hi Naruto, I'm sorry but I'll take my bath later after you're done. Minagi said as she headed towards the door to the changing room. I feel a sense of deja vu. Sasami thought to herself as Mihashi stopped Minagi from leaving. Minagi, why are you hiding from Naruto? Come on and let's get into. Mihashi said as she started to pull her towards the bath. Wait a minute, Mihashi, come on, stop. Let go of me, I'm not emotionally ready. Minagi whined only to be ignored. Suddenly, Mihashi slipped on the wet floor and fell into the water, while accidentally taking Minagi's towel with her. Naruto and Minagi both froze as they stare at one another, both trying to process what was happening. Suddenly, Naruto's nose started to bleed and he sank under the water and Minagi screamed while she jumped into the springs. Now it's not just a feeling anymore. Sasami thought as she sighed at Minagi's misfortune and Mihashi clumsiness. Oh, this just keeps getting better, don't you think, Mitoto? Mikami asked her niece with a sweat drop on her head, as she starts to laugh. Oh, I agree, Oba-san. Mitoto said with a smile on her face. Naruto, are you okay? Sasami asked as she helps Naruto stand back up in the water. Oh yeah, I'm fine, just a little lightheaded from the heat, but thank you, Sasami. Naruto said, trying to reassure her. Then Naruto realized just how close Sasami was to him and the fact that she had her hands on his back. Naruto felt the blood start to boil and she turned to look towards the entrance to the changing room. Seeing this caused Sasami to narrow her eyes and a playful smile appeared on her face. "Are you sure you're alright, because you look a little pale?" Sasami states, causing Naruto to flinch. "Then there is the fact that your nose is bleeding and you're trying to keep from staring at us." Naruto then tried to explain only for Sasami to start giggling. "You're naughty Naruto, he, such a bad boy," Sasami said, causing Naruto to hold his head down in shame. "I'm sorry for being naughty," Naruto said as Sasami started to lovingly stroke his ears. Ryo-Oki just meowed in happiness, not really paying attention to their conversation and more interested in Naruto's hand that was rubbing her hair. After Minagi retrieved her towel, she moved towards them with her head down and an embarrassed look on her face. "You saw me, didn't you, Naruto-kun?" Minagi asked Naruto as her cheeks turned bright red, causing Naruto to chuckle nervously. Suddenly, Mihashi resurfaced, waving her hands in the air and without a towel on to cover her body. "That was scary, for a minute there I thought I was going to drown," Mihashi said as the others just stared at her in bewilderment. Upon seeing Mihashi in all her glory, Naruto felt his nose gush out a large torrent of blood and his vision turn red for a few seconds. Naruto could hear the frantic voices of Sasami and Minagi calling for him, but he couldn't find the strength to speak, and as he slipped into unconsciousness, one last thought ran through his mind. "I think brown and pink are my new favorite colors behind orange." The next day aboard the Tsunami Fune. Within the grassy plains of the sacred tree ship, we find Naruto and Misaki squaring off in a sparring match so the Empress can get a good assessment of the ninjas fighting. Misaki had approached the prince that morning, requesting to have Toboy train with her that morning in an all-out sparring match with Seto approval. Having been excited at the prospect of fighting the supreme commander of Jiraiya's royal guard, Naruto had accepted her request. Not too far away from where the two combatants faced each other, Seto, Funaho, Azusa, Tenchi, Washu, Yosho, Tenyo, Sasami, Ryo-Oki, Minagi, Mitoto, Mikami, Mihashi, Iri, Noik, Ryoko and Ayaka were watching with anticipation for a good fight. Misaki wore a Jireian battlesuit that consisted of some blue skin-tight pants and a light blue kimono top that extended down to her waist and looked to be made in a way that it didn't restrict her movements. Naruto wore his new battle attire, but Sasami had his sword, as it would be only as useful as a wooden stick to him right now. "Okay Naruto-kun, the rules for this match are as follows. Anything goes in this fight, so any skills or techniques from your world are allowed," Misaki tells Naruto, getting a nod from Naruto. "In this match the only thing I will be using is the Jireian hand-to-hand fighting style only, and the first to either submit or lose consciousness loses." Oh, so she is showing mercy by allowing him uses any and everything at his disposal. Noik states only for Sasami and Ayaka to correct her on that. No, she won't be taking it easy of him at all. In fact, I'm sure Naruto will be beaten in about 3 minutes. Sasami told her while the others watched. The two stood in their respective fighting stances. For 10 seconds neither opponent moved an inch as they sized each other up, hoping for one of them to make the first move. Suddenly, Seto appeared right between the two and raised her hand in the air. "Are both combatants ready? Oh well, let the match begin," Seto exclaims as Naruto ran towards Misaki as Seto jumped out of the way. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.